war started this week, and it was mainly an economic one, which is going to bring us into the first story that we're going to be talking about. The major story that I think is most important that happened this week is, of course, the official declaration that the trade war has started between China and the United States. To me, this is a very, very big story because the United States, just after midnight on Friday, made good on its promises and threats and imposed sweeping tariffs on China, putting a 25% border tax on $34 billion worth of Chinese goods imported to the United States. And of course, Americans will also expect to see the prices of auto parts, industrial machinery, medical devices all increased by 25%. China is, of course, answering back with their own tariffs, and that, of course, will hit their automotive, meat, and seafood industry here in the United States. So, as we can see, China and the United States are pretty much testing each other's resolve right now. And this, as even according to Zero Hedge and many experts, is going to get economically ugly. And from my own personal point of view, I think we also have seen Bitcoin rise this week. But from my own personal view, this is not good because more tariffs mean more money for governments, including the Chinese and U.S. governments. And overall, I don't see that as a good thing, Jason.
No, sir, I don't either. The problem is that it's going to push this beyond, I think, just a monetary battle. When trade wars get ugly, that's when weapons start being used. That's where espionage is a more regular thing. That's what we've seen in our historical past. And really, Luke, we've been accustomed to living in a world where we are the superpower. When I say we, the United States. I know that you are a dual citizen, a world traveler. Maybe it's not we, but the United States is the superpower. We are accustomed to that. You living in Poland were accustomed to the Soviet Union being the other superpower. Well, guess what? Superpowers are rising. And is the question, Luke, that these are going to be the third, because they're already the third superpower. Will they be the superpower, the big daddy, Luke? And will this bring military conflict?
Well, this is an issue that, of course, should be highlighted more because obviously the military aspect of this is very daunting to even think about. Now, people are saying that Trump is right on doing this because of the economic sabotage that China has been doing on U.S. corporations. But really, if you look at things, there's a lot of international globalist corporations out there, and there has been some intellectual stealing by some, Chinese espionage. It's really a tricky understanding of this because some people are saying that this is the supposed art of the deal, that Trump is playing tough, and I could understand some of that talk. But I think from the surface value and ultimately looking at this current geopolitical situation unfolding now, I don't think anyone's winning. I think more government money going into hands from average people with tariffs, meaning higher taxes on things coming in and out of this country, is not good. And ultimately doesn't really protect anyone, especially if you look at automation and artificial intelligence taking over everyone's jobs with the corporatocracy. So I don't think the corporations need to be protected, but obviously this is going to have a severe effect on a lot of people, and a lot of people expect it to get worse, especially people who are looking at the situation from a kind of economic point of view. But also the military aspect is something that should be talked about a little bit more, as we just saw this week as well. 2 U.S. destroyers sail towards Taiwan. And this is the first time that this happened since 2007. It's a huge, big military move for the United States. Obviously, there's going to be more tough talk between these two countries, but Taiwan is a huge area of conflict between China and the United States. China does not like Taiwan. China does very aggressive military drills around Taiwan, and the United States is only doubling down with their military prowess with more saber rattling by sending 2 U.S. destroyers to Taiwan just recently within the last few days. There's even on Zero Hedge a very interesting article that says that there's a leaked Chinese memo working of Thucydides' trap with U.S. War is unavoidable. Now, if you don't know what Thucydides is, don't worry, I didn't know too. I had to Google it. It is a reference to when a rising power causes fear in an established power which escalates towards war. Thucydides wrote, "What made war inevitable was the growth of Athenian power and the fear which this caused in Sparta." So this is something that should be talked about more in length, definitely researched more in length. We've been talking about the topic of China for a very long time because it's an issue that is not going to go away anytime soon. China, economically and militarily, is rising in power, of course, threatening the hegemony of the United States. And historically speaking, not always, but historically speaking, when there is an emerging power threatening the hegemony of the power, the main power, the United States, usually that ends up in war. And then no one really wins from that end, as well as the trade wars. That's my 2 cents on it. Jason, what do you think?
No, I think these articles are actually very correct. I hope that we don't get into a hot war, but like you just talked about, there's some real saber rattling going on. We're seeing destroyers go where they haven't gone in over a decade. And I know you brought up artificial intelligence and automation earlier, and that's where this is headed. You know, Putin, I think, is correct. Those that master that first, and if it's China, it very well could be, will be the dominant global power from there on out. So knowing, you know, these neocons, these war hawks, they don't know another language other than war when their back is pinned against a wall. They know nothing else. So, you know, I pray it never gets to that, because China's a big place. That would be the first place that we got into a global conflict where I think that we would be outnumbered by citizens 4-1. 4-1,
Yeah.
Luke? Think about that. We're not, I mean, that's not a war where all of a sudden troops are on mainland China and we're setting up shop after, you know, shock and awe. That is like, forget about it. So, you know, we talk about Iran sometimes, and I can't even imagine that conflict popping off militarily. This is next level, bro. This would be next level. Go ahead.
Well, the next wars are definitely going to be fought not with humans, but with machines and technology, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence, which China is working furiously on and developing artificial intelligence. It was Vladimir Putin who did publicly on the world say the country that first masters artificial intelligence will be able to control the entire world, because these capabilities and technological advancements are far superior than obviously the human mind. And we have to understand here, this is pretty serious, especially with human rights having a backseat in China. And of course, we have to always remember how kind of China rose out of its current state, predominantly from famine, predominantly from communism, now in a kind of quasi-capitalist communism state. It was predominantly from the works of people like David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger that wheeled and dealed and worked out specific negotiations with China and helped them rise to the economic power that they are right now. So that's something to worry about. Another thing to really worry about is what's happening over in North Korea, because as we know, the Chinese also have a huge influence on North Korea. And as we're seeing this article, that there is diplomatic disconnect with North Korea on Saturday, accusing the United States of a, quote, gangster-like mindset in high-level negotiations that happened recently over denuclearization. And it's a little bit of a different perspective that was given to us by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who called the talks, quote, productive. So we're getting two conflicting reports there. And obviously, you have to understand, Kim.com made this point, and I agree with him. It is China who has a huge influence on North Korea that is leading these talks and also will determine what North Korea does with the United States. Since North Korea needs to depend on China for its survival, China knows that. And Kim.com made a good point saying that Xi Jinping will decide what's going to happen in North Korea, not Trump or Kim Jong-un. With U.S. trade wars expanding, Xi Jinping may want to embarrass Trump on the world stage. There may be never a deal with North Korea. Interesting times.
Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here for WeAreChange.org, and that was just a segment from our Sunday live stream, which we do live every Sunday between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We also make that available to you on iTunes via podcast form the following day. So don't forget to support us. Check out our t-shirt shop. Go to preparewithwearechange.com. And folks, be the change you want to see in the world.